cross stitching runner and welcome to my channel. I want to say a big hello and welcome to all new and returning viewers, and if by chance you've stumbled across this channel is all about cross stitch with a bit of life stuff thrown in. And today is Friday the 7th of April and it's awesome. It's Good Friday today here in Australia. It's I guess very much the start of the Easter long weekend, and the other thing that I'm really jazzed about, like aside from not having to work today, is that it's barely 7 o'clock in the morning and we have transitioned back to regular time, and I feel like I've already done a bucket load of stuff in the morning, and people are still waking up and they're still just starting their days. And I'm going to be traveling down to Canberra tomorrow, and I'll be in Canberra for about a week. And I guess since I've moved up to Wollongong, this is probably going to be the longest time I will have spent in Canberra. So super jazzed about that. We're heading down to Canberra because of Easter, and I've got a fun run happening on Sunday the 16th of April. So it's just going to make life a lot easier to not travel between two places in the space of 2 weekends, and or even the space of 2 or 3 days. When we did that a bit towards the end of last year, start of this year, it got really wearing and arguments and stuff, not cool. So this is where I'm just jazzed and excited. I've got the unit to myself at the moment because my boyfriend's out fishing at the moment, so I'm just trying to really make the most of having this space here on my own, and which is why we've got a slightly different location right now for filming. I feel like I feel a little bit like Harry Potter to some extent when I'm in my little office nook space, because it doesn't have any windows, doesn't really have any air ventilation. It has a sliding door that enables me to sort of block noise out, or um, block out any distractions if I'm participating in meetings or training or something like that. But it echoes and it's a nice change. I do have some windows open at the moment, or doors open, to get some airflow happening just throughout this unit. So I hope that there's no traffic noise being picked up by the microphone too much. But yeah, I know I've started off just a little bit differently for this particular episode, but it's mostly because I'm just super excited, and it being a long weekend, and I have some extra time to do stitching stuff, and I have a lot of cross stitch stuff to share with you. And um, I'm excited that I am almost sort of starting this weekend afresh, where um, I'm just waiting on certain uh, sporting games to happen that will then dictate which patterns or projects I work on, and how many stitches I put into those projects. And to me, I find that exciting because there is that element of not unknown, or element of randomness, that keeps things interesting and exciting for me. So that's sort of where this particular episode is heading towards. I guess a little bit of randomness, a little bit of excitement and such, and very much stitching stuff that is to do with a challenge that I'm starting for the second year in a row, and I'm enjoying it so far. That said, I'm in starting the fourth week of the challenge, so let's see how things go. Okay, stitching stuff. The first project that I've worked on since we've caught up is a project called Fight Like a Girl. It's designed by Tanya Amity. So this is sort of roughly what it'll look like when it's done. And it's it's based on an illustration by Elena Zhnedkova, and I purchased it a few years ago off Etsy, and I'm stitching this on 18 count navy blue Aida, and this is where I'm at so far. And based on the stitching challenge that I'm doing, I've got two teams associated with this project where um, the Brisbane Lions and the Melbourne Demons, they both won their games in rounds 2 and 3 of the AFL, Australian Football League. And that meant that over the last couple of weeks, I've put a total of 227 stitches in. I have been focusing a little bit under the green books that we see Peter Pan's Wendy sitting on, and I've also done a bit of stitching just under where Alice from Alice in Wonderland is sitting. So that's where a bit of my stitching has been based, and I'm enjoying it. It's one of the things with this challenge that you may hear me say a fair bit is that I'm loving the variety and being able to switch between so many different projects that um, I don't normally do outside of this kind of challenge. So it's fun. It's pretty cool. The next project that I've worked on, and again one that I hope I put a bit more time into, but we'll have to wait and see. It's connected to a team called the West Coast Eagles, and the project is called A Stitch in Time. This one is a mini version of it. It's a heaven and earth design, and I guess the artwork is based on artwork by Amy Stewart. Best way to specify it. Okay, so this, I guess it's a small picture of it. Let's see if I can get this zoomed in. So the really cool thing with A Stitch in Time is that there are heaps of people working on this project. Just bring this in just a little bit. So this is really cool. I love the colors in it. There are some sirens happening in the background, and I love the colors. It's rainbow colors. It is beautiful. It is pretty, and Amy Stewart is such a talented artist. So I'm using all of the called for colors. Um, this is a project that I've put just 100 stitches in because West Coast won one game in round 2. So this is where I'm at so far, and I focused mostly on, I guess, this area here, filling things in a bit, and I realized that this is probably a lantern of some kind, but when I was stitching it a bit, it's like, oh, I've got a strawberry happening. Don't know how strawberries fit into it, but yeah, based on the, I guess the finished chart. Okay, I'm not sure if I need to hold this still. I'm not gonna hold very well if I just try and do this one-handed, but you might see that there's a lady in a blue dress sitting under a tree, and it's lights in that tree, they're lanterns. So that's why, I guess, yeah, to me, it just initially thought it was a strawberry just based on its shape and the color. Still, it's really pretty, colorful lanterns in a tree. It's, yeah, pretty cool. So I'm not anticipating that I'll work on A Stitch in Time too much because I don't think West Coast are going to do very well this season, but that's by the by. We're about stitching here. So the next project, talking back stitching, is one of my own designs. It's one that's called the Black and White Rolled Up Daisy, and it's based on a photo that I took a while ago. and it's available as PDF or physical chart if you're interested. So this is, I guess, roughly what it'll look like when it's done, and it's pretty cool. I love it. I think the photo. Hey, I'm gushing here, not gushing, bragging, whatever the wording. I'm just appreciating my own work, and I think that's part of the joy of doing stitching and that kind of thing, and doing this Flosstube, where we get to admire our own handiwork. So that's pretty cool. So this is where I'm at. Um, this particular project is associated with a team called the Collingwood Magpies. Um, Team colours are black and white, and what have I done? I have put 198 stitches into the project, and that actually, yeah, I did a lot of the light colours. So where you see some strands of floss hanging down, it's not working, not cooperating today. So where we see the strands hanging down, that's sort of roughly the area of where I was working in. And as normal with these full coverage projects, when you do just a couple of hundred stitches, it doesn't look like a lot. We need to, if time and life allowed, put thousands of stitches in, and then we can start to really see, oh wow, yeah, I can really see that change there. So it is what it is. It's just part of the enjoyment. Um, so that was that. I think Collingwood should do well. They did play last night. I don't know. I haven't looked up the score, but I have a feeling that I might be doing some more stitching on Fight Like a Girl, because Collingwood were playing against a team called Brisbane Lions, and in Fight Like a Girl, it has, I think it's the character Aslan from the the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So Aslan's Lion, Brisbane Lions. So yeah, I'll have to wait and see. I'll have to look it up. So, stitching. Okay. The next project is based on, I've attributed this year to a team called the Hawthorn Hawks. I guess in hindsight, it's got a little, they've got some colours in it. So this is the mushroom one. The colours are very much like browns. So with the mini mushroom, I keep switching between mini mushrooms and Gundaroo mini mushrooms. I guess the working title had been Gundaroo mini mushrooms because the photo was taken on my parents' farm. They live out at Gundaroo, and this is what it'll roughly look like when it's done. And based on how long it's taking me to stitch this, I'm contemplating how much more I do stitch once I've gotten the page done. So Hawthorn won their game. I'm looking at notes right here. They won their game in round 3. So they won their game last week, and they scored a total of 80 points. So that meant I put 80 stitches into this, and the focus has been down the bottom here. So I've been sort of focusing around here, because it was just 80 stitches. It was easy to just do some block color. I do have the project in Pattern Keeper, but I've been predominantly stitching on a paper chart or physical chart, and I've found recently that based on how I use paper charts and that kind of thing, that um, having the digital chart in Pattern Keeper, it's enabled me to just click on a symbol and boom, it tells me straight away what DMC thread or whatever type of thread that I'm using, or brand, sorry. It'll tell me what the number is that I need to use. So that saves me a whole heap of time of looking through the key to find the symbol, find the color I need, and then go from there. So it is what it is. I am stitching this on 14 count Ada that I've had in my stash for donkey's ears. And it's one of those funny things where um, stitching on some different counts of fabric and switching between them, uh, I find that it can be nice and relaxing sometimes. Where if I'm stitching on 14 count Ada, for example, and I've previously been working on like a 28 count or 25 count or something, and it's like, oh, I can relax a bit. I don't have to. I can still need to concentrate, just not as much. So, so I found that to be quite nice. Again, with this challenge, being able to relax a bit and such. So the next pattern chart project that I have to share with you is one that I think is going to get a lot of attention this year, partly because it's got two teams connected to it as part of the challenge, and both teams are actually in recent years have been doing reasonably well. So it's 12 days of Christmas. Um, I will be when I find my words. So as I mentioned earlier, I'll be heading to Canberra, and I'll be able to hopefully bring back with me the book that this project is part of. So this pattern is from a book called Ultimate Christmas Cross Stitch, or Cross Stitch Christmas, from the year 2018. Um, I hope I still have the book in my collection because it will make life a bit easier as far as editing is concerned. That said, I'm sure I can just take a bit of time, click back through, showing before and after pictures, and I guess showing, hopefully, finding a snippet of the book that the chart is in. We'll get there. So I've been working mostly on the bottom of the chart project where we see the number 12 and we see those drums forming. And what I'm really excited about is the Swans, Sydney Swans and St Kilda Saints. They have been doing very well in their games, and this project has had a total of 212 stitches. So it means that with these drums that we see being stitched, that's sort of near the bottom of the tree. And then we'll have, I guess under the number 12, where my thumb is, you can see a little bit of red. That's going to be where the base of the tree is, like we'll have the trunk, but you don't actually see the trunk of the tree. It's um, not the vase, it's the pot or something, the special stand that the tree is sitting in. I'm excited about because like once that particular part of the project is stitched, it's like, yes, okay, I've hit the bottom of the chart, hit the bottom of the pattern, then I've got to come up to the top and work on the French hens. I'm not looking forward to working on the French hens because I'm going to need to fudge a bit, because I made some mistakes with stitching. I could unpick it, I could frog it. Um, I don't know. I'll have to wait and see. I'm inclined to see how much I can personalize it and work around the mistake because I'm hoping that it won't detract too much from the project. And hey, personalizations in a project, I think, helps to make it unique. It means that you know that you've put a bit of yourself into it because no one is perfect. So that's where I'm looking forward to getting that done a bit. This is, I guess, I'm using all the called for colors, and and that's the thing. Like with all the projects I'm working on, I'm using all of the called for colors, whichever it may end up being. So this is all DMC. The fabric is it's like I think it's like an even weave or a Doblin or something. It's definitely like some kind of even weave. and I'm stitching 2/2, and it's coming together nicely. I am making an effort to not complain about fraction stitches. So the fraction stitches are like quarter stitches or 3/4 stitches or anything similar to that. So that's my aim, to reduce the amount of grumbling that I might do about different projects, because they are my griefs and people don't always need to hear about them. Okay, next project. The next project is called His Master's Voice, and it is a heaven and earth design, and the artwork is by Lisa Parker. And I love Lisa Parker's artwork. I think she's very talented. She's really cool. So I'm just doing a bit of a zoom in to actually get the chart up, or the cover picture up. So that is what His Master's Voice Mini is. And where I'm stitching at the moment, you might see the cat's paw where he's sort of lifting it up just a little bit. That's where I'm stitching right now. And I am stitching this on, I think this is 28 count easy grid, easy guide. So this is where I'm at. I've started in the center of the fabric and just sort of working up and down. I'll eventually go left to right, but the project is connected to a team called Adelaide Crows. They won their game in round 3 and they scored a total of 117 points, which meant that I put like a minimum of 117 stitches into here. Hopefully you didn't hear those sirens too much. I did pause because of the sirens. Part of the joys of living in a city, and I value fresh air too much to worry about closing doors. It is what it is. It's all good. I probably could edit things out, but I can't be bothered. So anyway, I'm enjoying stitching His Master's Voice, and I guess looking at the cover page, I'm looking forward to stitching the Ouija board. That I think will be pretty cool. But I initially started out stitching this 1/1, and I wasn't quite happy with the coverage. So I've started doing this 2/1, and I'm enjoying the coverage now. It does get a little bit challenging when I need to fill in just some of the confetti stitches, but other than that, it's something I'm really happy with. So I'll just bring this up just a bit closely. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see how well that will be, but it's good. I like it. Okay, the next project I have to share with you is called Dewdrop Daisy, and it featured quite heavily in my episodes last year because it was one of my focus pieces for last year, because I was choosing to do a focus piece and put 22,000 stitches into a project for the year 2022. And so I wanted to see a lot of progress for Dewdrop Daisy, and this is what it should look like, or roughly what it'll look like when it's done. This is, again, one of my own designs, based on a photo that I've taken, converted, and again, I very much love this particular project. I'm loving how it's turning out, and this is where I'm at so far. I've been focusing a fair bit on the, I guess, the left side, one of the sides of the project. So where we see a bit of the thread hanging down, that's sort of where it's going to have a lot of stitches into it. And I've put in the last couple of weeks 108 stitches into it, at least a minimum of 108. And Fremantle Dockers is the team that I'm attributing this, or connecting this project to, because the colour purple, it's a key team colour for them, and I don't know if they're going to do very well this year. I don't know if this project's going to get much attention. So it may be a couple of years before we see this done. But when it is done, it will definitely get framed. And I'm hoping to be able to eventually um, enter it into some of the shows that are in Australia. So that's part of some long-term goals that I've got for my stitching. So that I think could be really cool. Okay, the next project I have to share with you again, it's one of my own designs, and this one is the Blue Mountains walking trail. And again, based on a photo that I took. So that's a photo, and that's sort of roughly what it will look like when it's done. I've got it associated with a team called the Carlton Blues, and this is got some threads getting in the way. Okay, so this is where I'm at so far, and this is where it should be. Um, I have put, how many have I put into this? Just 74. 74, round three. Gosh, sorry, I'm just going to go on a slight tangent here. Round three, as far as stitching is concerned, many of the games were really slow or low scoring games. Um, so, to put into perspective, with AFL, it's fairly common for teams to get up into the high double figures, so around the 80s and 90s, and it can be reasonable or common to have some of those games getting into triple figures. So yeah. Anyway, this is where I'm at, and I think I was focusing up around here where we see some of the individual stitches. So this is sort of just a bit of a close up of that. So this I believe is 28 count easy guide fabric. I'm actually really enjoying stitching on this. It's almost like stitching on a softish Aida, just in terms of how easy it is to actually see those holes in the fabric to do the stitches. So I'm doing this 1/1, all DMC thread, and I don't know. I would love to think that Carlton will do something this year. I'm not holding my breath, which is part of where this next project comes in. Again, I'm not holding my breath. I'm actually getting much done on it. So this next project is Bothy Threads, a dictionary of dogs, and I've been working on dodgem calves. I'm just mostly working on some of the yellows for that project, and this is where I'm at. So this particular project is associated with a team called the Western Bulldogs, and they, what do they do? They scored a total of 67 points to win the game. So you know how I was saying about like low scoring games and stuff? Yeah, it was a bit boring. Yeah, a bit boring. But I think it's also because I don't support the Western Bulldogs. Sydney Swans are the team that I choose to support, but that's by them by. The good thing is it's on 14 count Ada. It's really easy stitching. I'm using all the called for colours, and yeah, we'll wait and see. The next project that I hope to get some stitching done on, but probably won't get a lot unless I'm in a similar stage to what I am now, where I'm caught up on my stitching. I'm just waiting on people to play games. That's probably where I can actually get some of the extra stitching done on projects like Midnight Glow. So this is Midnight Glow. It's a custom crafts chart designed by Diane Allaire, and the artwork is by Lucci Mildo. I don't know. I'm not going to try and butcher the name too much, but okay, let's try that again. Um, I was not paying attention to time, and with the software that I use to record this Flosstube channel, I guess I've been using it for a little while now. It has a 30-minute time limit, and then it stops recording, and I just wasn't paying attention. So I was talking a bit about Midnight Glow, and I'm hoping to get some more stitching done on it. Probably won't if I just rely upon the team I've connected it to or associated it with to win games. So I was also going to try and pronounce the name of who the artist is for Midnight Glow, and it's just like, it's not going to happen. So with Midnight Glow, I've got it connected to a team called North Melbourne Kangaroos. Yeah, they aren't going to be doing very well. I don't think they didn't do well last year. They were very much towards the bottom of the ladder, and I think this year is going to be quite similar. So they won their game in round two, so a couple of weeks ago, and they scored a total of 73 points. And I have been focusing just towards the bottom here of the main, and this is, I guess, what the project looks like. And I'm not far. It is something where if I used it as a focus piece, it could get done. And it's again famous words of a cross stitcher or a crafter, where we regularly say, "Oh yeah, it's only just this amount of stitches. It won't take me long. If I just do this, this, and this, it'll be fine." Life happens, things change. It doesn't end up happening. So yeah, it is what it is. It's been stitched on 14 count Aida. It's the same fabric as the mini mushrooms project that I'm working on, and again, it's a pleasure to stitch on. It's that nice change to be able to switch again, similar to what I was saying about the mini mushrooms when you might be used to stitching on like the 25 or the 28 count fabric or similar counts of fabric, and then to go to something like 14 count or something that has those larger squares on it. It's like, oh, it's just you don't have to concentrate, or I feel that I don't have to concentrate as much. Again, it does depend on what project is actually being worked on. So this is where design works fits in. So this is the next project I have to share. So it's by Design Works. It's called Zebras, and I just love the colors. It came as a kit, so I'm just using all of the materials that came with it. So it's being stitched on 14 count Aida, and I've got it connected to a team called the Gold Coast Suns, and they probably won't do well this year. They're not known to do well. It will be probably a while before they ever hit the top 10, before they hit grand finals. I don't see it happening this year. I'm saying this out loud now as a way of having the universe prove me wrong, because it means that I get to do some more stitching on this project. And this team, the Suns, they scored a total of 73 points to win the game. And this is where I'm at. And I focus mostly on this area here. And I really miss stitching on this. It is colourful, it is wonderful, it is pretty. And I guess, like with any project, it depends on how much focus I want to put on that project to get done, and we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. So yeah, hopefully I get to stitch more on it. And what I love with this project as well is that aside from the colours, it has minimal backstitch. So that's the other thing that tends to attract me to projects is the colors and the amount of backstitch that goes into a project to give it the detail that it needs. So yeah, that's probably why I lean more towards full coverage projects, because it means that I don't have to do backstitch. And I think that stems a lot from the other projects that I've worked on when I started doing cross stitch, whereas a lot of those smaller projects where you needed to do a lot of backstitch to make that picture pop and to really make it be awesome. And I I just don't enjoy backstitch, mostly because it's, for me, I do backstitch at the very last. It's probably because it's more practical to do it that way, easier to some extent to do it then, because you have all your stitches already laid out in front of you and you sort of use that a little bit as a guide for where those back stitches need to go. But what's also having me with backstitch is when I first started doing cross stitch, we were at, I guess, in the world of cross stitch. A lot of our charts were transitioning from the late 90s or mid 90s, coming out of the 80s, where you stitched around every single part of a square. And it was very blocky. I mean, I know cross stitch is blocky, it's pixelated, it is what it is. But for for a lot of the charts that I was stitching on at the time, it did require you to I'll use this project as a prime example. So if I wanted to do the backstitch of the zebra's ear, for example, to really get it to highlight in, I guess, a lot of the older charts from like the 80s and that kind of thing, you would put the backstitch around almost each half of those squares. So just to give it that definition, rather than like you would backstitch two squares or two spaces. I'm not describing this very well. I'm butchering this description. I would need to do a stitch with me to actually help show and describe what I'm trying to say here. But if you're ever curious, just go and do a Google search or whatever kind of search engine you want to use. Do a search on projects and charts and patterns and that from the 80s, from the 90s, and focus on projects that have the smaller projects that do have the backstitch in them, and you'll hopefully see what I mean and why I'm like with the backstitch. Anyway, one project that I know that does not have any backstitch in it, and I'm getting excited about it because the Black Needle Society, we're going to be doing, or not we, I'm not part of Black Needle Society. I'm going to be part of a stitching retreat that will hopefully be happening either later this month, like later in April. And I'm excited. It's based on the Gilmore Girls TV show. And so I've put some work into Autumn in Stars Hollow. This was the first Black Needle Society stitching retreat that I participated in, and that was a couple of years ago, and I'm still working on the chart. I haven't even touched Summer in Stars Hollow yet. I will get there, but this is where I'm at, and this is a work that I'll do when a team called the Essendon Bombers gets games won. So Essendon won their game in round two, and they scored a total of 108 stitches, 108 points. So I put 108 stitches into this project, which meant that I got to finish off this area here of Kirk and Cat Kirk. So I've got the background done as well. So I'm loosely following the chart when it comes to the colours, because it has a mixture of DMC and um, uh, specialty threads. Um, so Week Style Works is one of the um, Week Style Works, and whatever GAST is short for. So I don't have any of those threads in my collection, but I do have some cottage garden threads in my collection, and that's where the stripy background that we see behind Kirk and Cat Kirk. Um, that is I think it's the bottle brush Waratah colour from Cottage Garden Threads, and it looks a bit stripy, but it works. It's fine. I think what the colour that was meant to go there was, I think, Week Style Works Merlot. So it's meant to be a darkish red based on, I guess, some red wine. Merlot. So I'm just looking at the back of the chart just to see the key there. So over dyed threads, specialty threads, similar thing. But yeah, it's coming along pretty well. I don't know. I don't know how Essendon going to do. I see them sort of sitting in the middle in the middle, in the sense that they won't make the top 10 or whatever. They won't make the grand final, but they'll win enough games to see a little bit of progress done on here. And speaking of progress, I've gotten a bucket load of progress done on Water Tiger, and I'm excited about it because not only have I done like the allocated amount of stitches that I needed to do because the Richmond Tigers won their game in round two, but with this particular project, I have hit the bottom, like full bottom of the chart, and I'm now, so I've hit the bottom down here. I'm just going to be working across now. And what that means is this is what the project looks like now. So this is the bottom of the chart here, and I'm starting to work across. So I've put again, I think I mentioned I've done the total of 108 stitches, and I've put extra stitches into this as well. I'm not counting how many extra stitches I've been putting in, but it's just the fact that I'm at that stage with the stitching challenge where, similar to what I mentioned earlier in this episode, that's sort of all the stitching. That's all that I've got to share, and that it's exciting. It meant that last night when I was doing a bit of stitching, I was working on a project that is connected to a team called Port Adelaide. They haven't won. They won their first round, but they have lost their last two games, and they're going to be playing tomorrow, Saturday, the 8th of April, and they're going to be playing against the Sydney Swans. I don't think Port will win, um, but that's also because I am biased. So that's where I figured that I'll try and get a bit of stitching in on Pisces, actually, to help put into context. I'll bring up what Pisces looks like. So I'm just getting the thing to rotate. Okay, so this is what I was working on last night, and it does have some writing on the front of it. The quote is called, not called, the quote is Pisces. Not everyone gets the same version of me. One person will tell you I'm a beautiful soul. Another will tell you I'm a cold-hearted asshole. Believe both. I act accordingly. That, I know, I've talked a bit about that quote a bit and how sassy it is. And there are times where I feel embarrassed about that quote, but other times, I guess a little bit like now, I'm not worried about the quote because I think everyone has two sides to themselves. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that path, not for this episode. So that's pretty much all the stitching that I have to share with you. I do have a bit more life stuff to share with you, and what I'm looking around a bit, just seeing what the weather is like. It's really nice weather outside. I haven't gone for a run yet. It is a little bit breezy, so this is where I'm feeling just a little bit soft and sensitive. Um, so with running, again, this is where it's connected to my channel name, being the cross stitching runner. Stitching every day, running when I can. I've been doing a lot of running over the last few months, and I've hinted a little bit at it where I can. And a couple of weeks ago, I was down at the Batemans Bay, Willua Bay area, which is almost 3 hours drive south of Wollongong, and it's a beautiful drive. I love that drive, whether it be as a driver or a passenger. It's the scenery is just beautiful. It regularly, I guess, even when driving from Canberra to the Batemans Bay area, the scenery changes a lot. I think the big difference is that I guess from driving from Wollongong to Canberra is that it's a concrete highway, because that's the quickest path to get between both locations. And with Wollongong to Malua, you're still on a highway, but you don't know it because it's not a typical highway. That's by the by. The point is the running component of it, which was why we were at Malua Bay. I participated in a fun run called Beta Bridge. Um, it was meant to be a 5K fun run, and I say it was meant to be because the organisers did their best. They did well with most elements of organising the event. It was not a typical fun run with how it was set up, um, because one of their biggest muck ups, and I feel annoyed about it, and I'm getting over it slowly. The biggest muck up was the distance, and that's why I'm saying it was meant to be 5K. We ran a total of 6.8 kilometers. I say it that way because, like, in my training, I can cope with that distance. I've run longer than 6.8 many times. That's no worries. But when you're training to run a particular distance, regardless of how far that distance is, when you're actually going to be running that race, you're expecting that's how far the distance will be. So you have these, or I at least have certain expectations and certain goals in mind that I want to achieve. And I I still achieved certain goals, but I just didn't feel like I properly achieved them in that run. So we ran 6.8 kilometers, and it was meant to be 5 kilometers. So it was meant to be 3.1 miles, but it ended up being 1 point something miles longer. So it was what, 4.2, 4.3 miles. That just annoys me because yes, we've got value for money, um, and it's just the fact that you pay money to enter a race, to participate in a race. Loud motorbikes outside, um, and I was hoping to try and see if I could achieve a particular time for running that distance, and I got close to it, but again, my final time, anyway, it is what it is. I should be grateful that I can run, that I can move, that I have the ability to run. I have the ability to run that distance. That not everyone has that ability. Not everyone has that drive to run or drive to participate in something like that, where some people may want to run, um, and they may have the ability to run, but they have whatever thoughts in their heads or stories in their head that tell them that they can't do it, or tell them that people are going to be looking at them too much or making fun of them, or whatever that story might be. And that's what's stopping them from doing it, which I think is a bit sad. That's by the by. Um, so that just really annoyed me, that the organisers mucked up in that way, and it had me wondering that if the 5K distance had that significant blowout, what about the 10K runners, and what about the longer distances that other people were participating in? Were the 10K runners, were they shortchanged? And what about the half marathon people? The half marathon is 21 point something kilometers, which is 13.1 miles or whatever that distance, or something similar to that distance. Were they shortchanged as well, or did they have to run longer than that distance by a couple of kilometers because the organisers mucked up and didn't communicate very well? The other thing, like aside from me grumbling about the distance, the other annoying thing was that how they sorted out the start and finish lines. Here in Australia, when we're running or even walking on our sidewalks, we are taught from a young age to stay left, because that's similar to the road rules as well, where we drive on the left hand side of the road. And with the running, the only times that we would run on the right hand side of a footpath or the road or anything like that is if we are overtaking someone to um, keep achieving the goals that we're wanting to achieve. And the weird thing with this race is that we were told to run on the right hand side, because of how the the organisers chose to set up the course. We were running on footpaths. They were mostly wide enough to be able to allow single file for either direction. Big mistake by the organisers, unfortunately. They really should have reconfigured where the start and finish lines were set up, just to keep that consistency of staying left, because a lot of runners, we sort of defaulted to the thinking, okay, yeah, running, stay left, because that's how 99% of our runs are set up, for any event. So yes, that's me grumbling probably too much. We were lucky with the weather. The weather was beautiful. It was really nice to be back down at Malua Bay again, because it's my second or third home, where I've spent a lot of time growing up, and um, I just love that area. It's one of the areas where I can just truly relax and let whatever stresses go. Even if I'm working from down there, from that area, I just feel a bit more relaxed. It's just an area it's an area that I'm familiar with. I've grown up there. Um, so again, it's also like a holiday home, that kind of thing as well. So again, you have those sort of relaxed feelings around it. So with running on the brain, um, next week, so Sunday, the 16th of April, I have another fun run. I'm participating in the 5.4 kilometre distance, or event that is associated with the Canberra Marathon. So the the event is a big event, on the running calendar. It has been organised by a different company, who do these events very, very well. And when I'm saying very well, this is where they have marshals that are fully across the different events that are going on, and they can help sort of direct people. Like if you've got people who, where I'm saying, or rephrase, with this particular event that I'm going to be running in, we've also got people who are participating in, I think, like the half marathon and 10 kilometers at the same time. We all start at slightly different times, but there will be slower people in those longer distances, and there will be certain times when um, the people for the longer distances may have to turn left, and then people like myself who are participating in a shorter distance, we might have to go straight or take a right instead. And that's where the marshals would need to sort of help some people who may not be fully across where they're going or what they're doing. They can help to then direct, and they can do that very well because of the bibs that we wear. They're all different colours, and they all clearly say if we're 5 kilometre, 10, half marathon, whatever that distance. So the marshals can easily, 10 kilometres go that way, 5Ks this way, and it's pretty cool that way. It works out really well. So I have full faith and trust in the organisers for the running that I'll be doing on Sunday, the 16th of April. And I'm looking forward to it because it's in Canberra. I'm very familiar with that area. I've run this course before. It's in an area that I love, and it's going to be autumn in Canberra. And autumn in Canberra is a beautiful spot where we've got these changing colours of the leaves, and the autumn for me is a favourite time of the year because, especially like with this time of year at the moment where we're transitioning from daylight savings to normal time, and I feel like I achieve a lot early in the mornings when the body clock is still thinking that it's an hour later than what it is, and I feel like I have a bit of extra light in my day, even though I know it'll eventually shorten up. It's going to be good. It's going to be nice. So the 5.4 kilometers, it is a bit weird that it is 5.4. I don't know why. I'm not sure what the reasoning is for that, but I get to see some areas of Canberra that I used to work at a bit within my public service career. There are buildings within the area that I'll be running around, and I used to run those areas quite often. So it's going to be nice. I'm hoping the weather will be nice to me. Canberra weather can be a bit fickle. Um, I'm quickly talking a bit quickly because I'm paying attention to time this time, and I'm almost anticipating my boyfriend to be back from fishing soon as well. It's getting closer to 8 o'clock in the morning, and I've been sitting down a fair bit. So I'm keen to get out and about, go and be active. I will most likely go for a run. I don't know where or how far, but I'll get there. It'll be done. Um, so that said, with the running, I do miss listening to music. I left my earphones in Canberra when I was there a few weeks ago, and I really missed the earphones. I do have other, like over the head kind of earphones I could wear, but they're a bit old. They're a bit loose, or I've got no, they're not here with me at the moment. I've got some nice fancy ones, but they're nice fancy ones, and they go over the ears. They're bulky. They're nice, but I don't want to ruin them with my sweatiness. Um, but it does mean that I can just zone out and listen to the music. That said, when I have been running and not had the earphones in, I do get to pay attention to my surroundings just a little bit more. Um, I pay a bit more attention to my running form, um, which I probably don't do as much as what I should. But that's by the by. I have 30 seconds left for this episode before the program will shut me off. So let's wrap up. Thank you so much for your time for this episode. It is just a little bit longer than I had initially thought it would be. I hope you've been able to get a bit of stitching done while you're listening to this episode, and I will hopefully see you in a couple of weeks' time. See ya.